So I'm a polar law graduate from the University of Akureyri in Iceland, and it's a 2-year-long degree. And the first year is spent in Iceland, in Akureyri, and the second year is usually spent abroad. The first year we have actually not just law courses, we also have some anthropology, economics, also different aspects of law. So we had courses about the rights of indigenous peoples in the Arctic, about environmental law, law of the sea. So it's quite interdisciplinary actually. And also, as it's polar law, we look at both the Arctic and the Antarctic. And I decided to actually do my master thesis on Antarctic environmental law. And it's quite a small group, but that's really, I guess, what's best about it because everybody is really passionate, and I actually learned a lot from the other polar law students as well. And also from our teachers, of course, because we have two main teachers and a lot of guest teachers that are specialists, experts in their field, like Law of the Sea. So we really learned a lot during these 2 years. And then the second year, you have the possibility to do an exchange. And I decided to go to Finland because I did my bachelor's degree in Finnish language and culture. So it made a lot of sense for me to finally use that and go to Finland. And I decided to go to Joensuu at the University of Eastern Finland. And there I focused more on environmental policy and law. And that was really a great complement to the polar law program because I could focus on environmental issues, especially in the Arctic because it was in Finland, but I could still relate it to my work on Antarctica. And then we had to write a master thesis, and you can write that anywhere. So if your thesis is about Greenland or the Faroe Islands or anything, you have the possibility to go there and write your master thesis in that place, which makes sense if you need interviews or field work or anything like that. But I decided to stay in Finland because I really enjoyed it. So I really love the possibility to go abroad. I think it really added to the experience, and I would definitely recommend the polar law program for sure, because there was so much to be learned. Yeah, I think not many people know about the Antarctic at all. So usually what I say is that it's actually very different in the Antarctic from other places in the world because there is no state. And I think that to me, that was like the first thing that really caught my attention about the Antarctic. How does it work when there is no state? What's this big piece of land doing there without any state? I also like to talk about the fact that military activities are prohibited, extractive activities. You cannot take minerals except for science. And of course, that's what I'm working on. I also talk a little bit about the intrinsic values that are recognized for the Antarctic, and I think that is also quite specific, quite unique compared to the Arctic, for instance. I don't see this happening as much. This status as a global commons is also something I discuss, but that's usually when I start losing people. So yeah, I just think that there is a lot of specificities about the Antarctic and about environmental governance in the Antarctic because it's a global commons and because there is no state. To me, that's like the main things. I think it was because I did my bachelor's degree, as I said, in Finnish language and culture, and I specialized in international relations. So I had a bit of law back then during my bachelor's, and I really loved it. I never had it before, so it was a discovery. And after COVID, I wanted to go away a little bit and see something else. So when I saw about the polar law program in Iceland, I thought they could be really great for me because then it like mixed Finland that I had studied quite extensively and law that I had recently discovered my love for. So that's why I went to the polar law program. The Antarctic was not my focus when I started the program, really, because as I said, I wanted to work on Finland and especially on the rights of Sami people in Finland. And that's still like one of my research areas, of course. That's something I'm still interested in. But I decided to focus on the Antarctic for my master thesis because actually I knew a lot less about it. So it felt more intriguing for a longer piece of work. I went to the Faroe Islands, if you consider that to be Arctic, for the Polar Symposium that took place last October. Of course, I went to Iceland because I did the first year of the Polar program there. I went to Norway, but I was on holiday. I don't know if that counts. And Finland, also, where I studied. Polar Symposium that took place in the Faroe Islands was actually my second one, and that was much more reassuring than the first one. The first one I was just really stressed out. It was the first time I was going. I didn't know the people, only my teachers who were there. But the second time I knew actually quite a lot of people that I had met either at the Polar Symposium or other conferences, so that was very reassuring. And I think that that's like one big asset of the Polar Symposium. It's that there's such a friendly and supportive atmosphere. It's not at all competitive. It's not at all, people will not judge you while they're trying to give constructive comments and support your research, especially as an early career scientist. I really felt a lot of support from really everyone. So that was a nice surprise that I had the first time, and I was happy to see that happen again in the Faroe Islands. I'm always really excited to go. And just overall, it was great to see the Faroe Islands. And there were some activities organized by the University of the Faroe Islands. So overall, it was really a great experience. The last symposium was taking place in Tórshavn, the capital of the Faroe Islands. Then we had a little excursion to some other place nearby, like on the same island. But the conference ended on a Saturday and my flight was only on a Monday. So with a few friends, also researchers, scholars, we rented a car and we went around the Faroe Islands on a little road trip. It's actually quite small, so you can easily go around in one day and see a lot of things. And it was really gorgeous. And we're very lucky with the weather. So it was really a great experience. Yeah, I really think so. As I said, people are always very friendly, so I think it makes it very easy to discuss research interests. Some become friends and then you can keep in touch, learn about their research as it goes. And also I'm quite surprised beyond polar law by the level of interdisciplinarity and how people, not just from law, but also from archival studies, history, human geography, even environmental studies and natural scientists will engage because, well, it's really important, I think, to keep this interdisciplinary dialogue. And I've always met people who are happy to share their knowledge to advance science. Yes, I really think so because I'm not sure I've met an Arctic legal scholar that wasn't also working or had not worked as well on the Antarctic. And same thing for the Antarctic scholars. I think that there's always some kind of exchange, and that it's more broadly polar law, so Arctic and Antarctic. So you might have an area that's your specialty, but usually people also engage with the other pole. That's what I feel. And I think that's really great because then you can easily exchange knowledge and learn about other things and keep in touch with what's happening on the other side. Yeah, I'm very critical about that because by going to see this thing you might not see again, you might actually be making it disappear faster. So if you want to see icebergs and you go, and then maybe the pollution from your ship and just the emissions of the trip, because going to Antarctica is also just quite a trip just to go there. And this is contributing to the melting of the ice. So I'm very critical about last chance tourism and about tourism as there is this notion of ambassadorship about Antarctica, that if you go, then somehow you become ambassador of the Antarctic because you've been there, you've experienced it, and then you can be a steward for environmental protection. I mean, tourism in the Arctic is also quite positive in some ways because it is like economic activity, and there is some like things to be done with tourism and awareness more generally, of course, but last chance tourism is something that I don't really understand or support. My research has never really been just law because I don't have my bachelor's was not in law, so it's quite recent that I've been working on law. I still have a really important interest in culture and languages and all of that, so that applies more to the Arctic. I'm also really fascinated by all these ethical and philosophical questions that we can raise about engaging with the polar regions, as you said, last chance tourism as well. I also recently discovered that human geography was a really interesting field. Also, a lot of decolonial theories that are really fascinating to engage with. So the rights of nature is, I think to me there is two main aspects to it. One is political and legal, so it seeks to give rights to natural more than humans. So rivers, ecosystems, forests, national parks. And here we have different understandings across the world. There's also another dimension that is more philosophical, and I think that rights of nature also try to challenge and change human nature relationships, and in that way it is quite anti-capitalist, at least how I understand it, because so far nature has been something for us to exploit, to extract the resources that are there, and rights of nature are changing that by saying that nature has a right to live, a right to flourish intrinsically, so regardless of the use we have of it. So I think that this is two main aspects of rights of nature that go hand in hand, really. I don't really work about rights of nature in the Arctic. A big question that needs to be asked is, what do we mean by the Antarctic, and who do we include in the rights of nature? Do we include just penguins and whales and seals because they're big and charismatic and that's what people care about? Or do we include all the living creatures? And if yes, then how do you know what's living and what's not? Do you include microorganisms that live in the ice and in subglacial lakes? Do you include ice itself? Because that's a big part of the Antarctic, but it's not really living as we would define it, but it's still a big part of that. So I think that it's, of course, discussions about animals, but also more broadly, maybe about ecosystems and that kind of these webs of relations that exist. I was really excited to see Northern Lights because I had never seen them in France, and I was wondering if I was going to see them in Iceland. Um, and I did. I saw them a couple of times in Iceland. Always the green ones because I always missed the pink ones. And then again in Finland, I didn't know if I would see them because it's quite further south. Um, it's not as high north as Akureyri was, so I didn't know if I would see them, but I did, and actually much more often than I did in Iceland for some reason. And at some point one evening they were really bright, so I was really excited to see them and to experience that, making all of my friends in France jealous. So that I really loved being able to see them. That was on a trip to Nurmes, which is quite close to Joensuu, like about 2 hours by train. And it was really, really cold. It was in December, and it was the first time temperatures were dropping. We were not at -30, but closer to maybe -20. And my hair were wet, and when we went out, they froze and they became all white and crispy. And it was really an experience, and I thought, this is how you know you're in Finland when such things happen. But it was really fun, and I really loved this trip. It was really gorgeous winter wonderland, with frozen lakes and very high snow. I also went for a day trip in Turku because I did a summer school there during my bachelor's, so I very much wanted to go back and see Turku again and the places that I went to back then. I have a cousin who's doing his postdoc in Jyväskylä. He's in quantum physics, so quite different from me, but I went to see him for a day trip again, and it was the first time I went to Jyväskylä. I did not visit that much around Joensuu because actually I think you need a car to see those places like national parks, and so I was lucky to have like a day trip organized by the university to the Koli National Park, which is, I was told it's really nice, but when we went, it was completely foggy, like in autumn. So we were on top of the mountain where you're supposed to have the beautiful view, but we didn't see anything. But I guess it was part of the experience. Um, and I also went to Lapland again with a trip organized by the University of Eastern Finland. That was really amazing too. We did some snowshoeing and we saw some reindeers. So that was a great time.